Hey, welcome back to another episode of Empowered to Advocate, the podcast. I'm Michelle, and I'm joined here with Dana Marie, and we're really excited today to follow up on last week's episode where we talked about ourselves with what we do. So how we do support caregivers and educators to really be more knowledgeable and confident and to bridge that gap between the home and school piece that can oftentimes be lost during an IEP meeting. So it can't be expected that caregivers and parents know all the things about special education. And also educators also have different areas of knowledge, right? So you might be a math teacher and you have very specific knowledge about being a math teacher. Even special educators may not know all the little nuances and ins and outs of the eligibility process and all the things about rejected IEPs and partial rejected IEPs. So our goal here is through our services to really provide that knowledge base and confidence in knowledge so that educators and caregivers can meet at the table and really have the best conversations to support students the best at these meetings. So with that, we're going to talk about our services. So Dana Marie, you want to kick it off?
Yeah. So we often get the question like, okay, so what can you actually help me with? What can you actually do? What is it that you do for parents? And so, I'll start by saying that we do traditional advocacy. So you've maybe heard before of parents and caregivers hiring a special education advocate, somebody who will go with them to an IEP meeting, somebody who will sit there, help them to gather information, take notes, help them prepare for the meeting, help them sort of discuss what went on during the meeting after. That's sort of a traditional advocacy role, and we do that, right? So if you listen to last episode, you know that I work for Empowered to Advocate full time, and that is what I do during the day. And so I'm available to attend meetings during the school day. But I think that what makes us a little bit unique, I should say, and we do some other services that are a little less traditional or a little bit more coaching versus traditional advocacy, where we're preparing parents with the information that they need to be their child's advocate themselves and long-term to be in a position where they don't need us anymore. So yes, we are happy to do a more traditional advocacy role, but there are other things that we can do as well to help you prepare for advocating for your child.
And one of those things is really we will review IEPs and evaluations and progress reports, and we look at all of that information, and we will take that information and then have a conversation with parents about our thoughts and our opinions and facts about what should be in IEPs and in evaluations. And parents can then take that information and go into the meeting with a toolbox of a binder, a folder of notes of things to ask during the meeting, things to bring up during the meeting, helping folks craft your parent concern statement and your vision statement, ways to ask, can you please explain how this recommendation in your report is related to the test score, right? What does this test score really mean? So helping parents understand even the language and the lingo to be able to ask the questions that they might be thinking about, but not have the words or the vocabulary yet to use at a meeting.
And along the same lines, one thing that parents and caregivers sometimes ask us for is simply just to review communication, to help them write letters to school or write emails to school, and vice versa, to help them review communication that has come through school. It might not even be a full IEP. It might not be a full evaluation. It might be that they're getting daily or weekly emails from their child's special educator or behaviorist or speech and language pathologist, and they're not sure what to make of the information or what to make of what the school's recommending as a short-term or a long-term next step. And so one thing that we can help with is ghostwriting emails and communication to and from school, but also reviewing communication that comes through the school channel to home. And that's, like I said, everything from emails, but also conversations that I've had, in person, by phone, preparing for maybe quarterly consult meetings. Those are all things that we can help you streamline that communication, but also understand what is being asked and what is being recommended.
Mm-hmm. And to piggyback on that, that's also when you get an IEP, a proposed IEP, going through that IEP with you to fully understand, because there's options that you have as a parent after you get a proposed IEP to accept, reject, or partially reject, and what option is going to be the best in order to support your child. So helping you make that decision by giving you the information and the options and helping you kind of weigh the pros and cons of each option to make sure that your child is getting the best support that they need, while also not stopping the process in its tracks.
Right? For sure. And along those lines, making sure that your child's getting what they need. Another thing that is helpful for parents is for us to conduct an observation in the school setting. And so, we're unique in that we come from a school setting. Both Michelle and I have, 15, 20 plus years of experience working in a school. So we kind of know what to look for in the classroom setting or on the playground or in the lunchroom, if those are areas of concern or need. And so for some families, they just need somebody to go in and take a look at their child in their placement, in their setting, and to give recommendations about whether the setting seems appropriate, whether the placement seems appropriate, whether the services and accommodations being provided for their child is appropriate. So we go in, we do an observation, we write up a formal report for the parents and caregivers that has what we noticed, what we observed, but also recommendations for next steps. And for some families, that's what they need, and that's enough information for them, and that's helpful so that they can take that and go into an IEP meeting or review an IEP or an evaluation on their own with that observation piece in hand. And so that's tailored specifically to what parents are obviously looking for and wanting to find out about more in their child setting.
And the other thing that we are able to help caregivers with is helping to connect you with supports and networks of supports outside of school and resources outside of school that can help augment your child's progress and education. That for anything from during the transition process, ways to understand what the steps are to make sure your child is set up post completion of high school, helping you find maybe a therapist or somebody outside of school that could be supportive. We're not therapists, so that's not something we do, obviously, right. But, helping to, if you have other areas that you feel like could be targeted outside of school, tutors, things like that can help augment. We also have that network of folks that we're able to connect caregivers with.
And this is just a highlight of some of the services. I think that one thing that we do super intentionally is we meet with every parent or caregiver who's even considering having us on board their team. We meet with them and do a free consult to begin with to see if we're even a good fit. And in some cases, we're not. And so we very intentionally set up that first conversation, knowing that we're getting information, but we're also trying to see if it's a good match and if we can support the family caregiver with what they need. And then from there, based on the information that the parent or caregiver shares, that's when we come up with a plan and propose a plan of how we think that we could help. And quite frankly, no two are the same. We've yet to propose two of the same plans for two different families, because it really is important for us to gather the information and then to create an individualized plan for that family to help support them. And so if you're even thinking that you might want to hire an advocate or a parent coach, reach out to us. We have, like I said, a free 20-minute consult to begin, and we can see if it's something that we can support you with. Something that Michelle noted at the beginning, which I think is really important, because hello, I know you're listening, educators. I know we have some educators who listen to the podcast, who follow us on social media, who are on our newsletter. If you have questions, you should absolutely feel free to reach out to us as well. We have some resources for specifically educators that tailor to how you can help the families that you work with, how you can help the parents and the caregivers that you work with. We talked a little bit more in last episode about philosophically how we really believe this is a team approach, and how we really believe that everyone having access to information only makes the team stronger and only makes the process work better for each individual child. So if you are a teacher and educator, someone who works in a school, and you're working with children on IEPs, you're working with parents and caregivers, having a conversation with us might be helpful for you as well. So do not hesitate to reach out to us to continue to follow along. This information is information for everybody, the information that we share. It is not a secret. We don't want it to be a secret. We don't want to gatekeep the information. And so we want parents, folks who work in schools, teachers, educators, to all have the information that they need to make this process work the best for kids.
And, it's really important for both of us to make this service and our services as accessible as possible. So we don't believe that it should be right that only folks of a certain income level have access to the support to get their child the support that they need. So we do offer a sliding scale for services. So that is something that we are more than happy to discuss during our consults. We are also happy to discuss, we have a pay what you can that we bring up every few months. So be on the lookout for those. If you're, not sure if you can afford an advocate, you can afford coaching, we don't want that to be a barrier for you and for your children. So we want to work with you to support you. So make sure you inquire if that sounds like something that you need and are nervous about the cost. We also offer a variety of free resources, either through this podcast, through the newsletter, through webinars. So if there is a topic that you really want us to address through one of those medias that would be helpful to you, please email us so that we can make sure that is either a webinar or a podcast or newsletter or combination of the three, so that you're able to access that information, even if you aren't able to directly work with us in a coaching capacity.
Yeah. And I just, I think it's a good time to say that we are just really grateful and thankful to the families, parents, to the folks who have worked with us, especially over the last year, for, trusting us with, your children and with information about your children. And we don't take that lightly, and we certainly don't take it for granted. We love what we do. We love working with families. We love working with kids. And we want to see this process get more transparent and easier for everyone involved. In any way that we can do that and help you, let us know. Like Michelle said, reach out to us, jump on our newsletter if you're not there. That's where we share a lot of information, and also upcoming events, like Michelle said, webinars, pay what you can sessions, things like that. But feel free to reach out to us anyway. Email, on social media, through the podcast notes. We love to hear from folks, and we love to hear what you want us to talk more about. So if you have a topic in mind, like Michelle said, let us know what that topic is, and we will try to cover it on one of the next episodes of the Empowered to Advocate podcast. Thank you so much for listening. As always, we're really, like I said, grateful that you are here, and we look forward to talking with you next Friday.
Yay. Thanks, everyone.
Bye, everyone.